Welcome back to the show. I am very excited today because we have Tarra Stubbins on the show, and she is a CEO and executive assistant, also the ultimate success catalyst and lifestyle guru, dedicated to goal achievement and lives the belief that anyone can be the Beyonce of their own lives. With over 2 decades of experience as a celebrity assistant and manager, along with being the founder of 2 multi-million-dollar businesses, Tarra has elevated countless individuals to their own rock star status. So Tarra, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to have this combo with you today.
Yes, and I told Tarra off air, and the reason why I said I was excited, and I know, audience, I say this a lot because I do genuinely get excited about my guests, but if you know me, you know I have an executive assistant background. And so this is going to be like, I know what I'm talking about for once. And I'm not just interviewing and being thrown into the deep waters. So this is going to be fun. For our audience, don't forget, if you're interested in creating a life of freedom, becoming a freelancer, you can use the code podcast and get $100 off my self-paced course, which is called Corporate to Contract Core. You can find them at the bottom at the show notes. All right, Tarra. If you could tell one thing to someone starting a career in the same field as you, so as an executive assistant, what do you think you would tell them?
Be unique. So as you probably know that there are a million different virtual assistants, executive assistants out there. And really in any field that's popular, being unique and staying true to yourself is really something that you need to push forward to succeed. If you're trying to open your own business or be freelancer or whatever it is. And it really is something that I've taken into consideration in my entire career as well, whether it has been being an executive assistant or being a celebrity assistant or whatever it is. I'm always try to be as true to myself as possible. I love the idea of setting my own values, not just company values, but what is it like to be Tarra, and trying to hold true to that on my day-to-day, whether again, I am being an executive assistant for a startup company or helping a really powerful and successful celebrity.
So I'm going to jump kind of into a different question here. From my own experience and background, I know when I became a freelance executive assistant, it took a lot of trial and error to figure out how to have some kind of work-life balance, because I was excellent as an EA. As you know, as an EA, you can be on demand all the time. And so trying to figure out, okay, how do I make it so that I still have the time to spend with my kids and I still have that freelance lifestyle that I've heard about while being an EA, it was really difficult. What have you found when you're working with EAs that are trying to come on board? Do you still require them to be available around the clock sometimes, depending on the clients? Or are there ways that you set up their business so maybe they work part-time or they have different hours, or there's some kind of flexibility within there?
Yeah, so with our company, with Take It Easy, we are a team of fractional executive assistants. However, our executive assistants are full-time for us. So they work fractionally for 2 or 3 different clients at one time. But again, they are full-time with us. And
Okay.
yes, you are right. They definitely are pulled in a million different directions and are, as an EA, you're called on at all hours of the day and night. But what is unique about the clients that we help is that a lot of them are in their early stages of hiring and working with any level of assistant. So we have the great opportunity of helping to train them into this is what an actual emergency is and what you should be calling us for, after hours. And this is something that can wait. Also, a lot of our clients really do understand right from the very beginning what fractional or part-time means. And we remind them that as well. So our EAs are pretty lucky that they work very hard, kind of 9 to 5, a little longer than that throughout the core working hours. Very hard because they are being stretched again between 2 or 3 different clients at once in multiple teams. But they do mostly get weekends, holidays, evenings off, which is really great. And we really work with them too. And this is how you speak with a client. This is how you push back. This is how to not be scared of, saying no to a client. We are not full time for them, and really helping the client understand kind of what package they are buying into from the very beginning. So that's something that I would say for anybody who is starting, whether you are working for a company or going out on your own, is really making sure that whatever client that you are working with understands what your core working hours are, understands what an emergency is, what they should be calling you for after hours, and really understands that you are going to say no to things. I start saying no on day one to train them to actually understand that, oh yeah, they are going to push back. And it's not something that, comes 3 months later when you finally say no. I find stuff that I can say no to on day one. So it's a constant reminder that like I'm owning this relationship, not necessarily the client. I think if you work as an EA for a corporation or for one individual at full time, it can be a little different than going out on your own in a fractional kind of part-time virtual assistant, fractional EA situation.
Yeah, what I ended up doing, which I taught a few other EA VAs, is that for me, I based a lot around availability and how quickly they needed me to get the work done. So if they wanted to have the feel of someone who is more colleague and in the office, so like within maybe 5 or 6 hour turnaround time, which was like the max, right? Because as an EA, we're like always on. But like if they wanted something like that, that was gonna cost a lot more than someone who was like, no, you know what, you can do like you can get back to me in 2 days. I'm not like, I'm a different level of urgency. And once I started figuring that out when I entered the online world, because as a corporate EA, everyone always wants something all the time right now. And that's why they hired you, right? So to get out of that mindset, I started to learn that different entrepreneurs had different levels of urgency and needs. And then I was able to base my pricing around that. And in the beginning, I noticed you said packages. In the beginning, I did hourly because that's all I knew about the freelance world. I was like, oh, well, everyone does hourly. And I quickly realized, like, how am I going to charge for a 30-second email? Like, do I charge that by hour while I'm waiting for the response? Like 4 hours for the other assistant to get back to me, or even 2 days? Or how do I set this up? And I couldn't figure it out until I kind of went into this, all right, we're going to do this by urgency and it's going to be a set rate. And that makes it so much easier. Because sometimes I was getting even like if you only do it by how long it takes you to write an email, you might get paid like $50 a month, depending on the client, right? And you can't do that.
Yeah, it's also really hard to be strategic between like if you're blocking clients into specific times of day. If you get to a certain level of being an executive assistant and not necessarily just a task doer, but the kind of higher strategic partner side of being an executive assistant, it's really hard to be strategic between 1 and 4 on Thursdays. So I would say figure out kind of what level of either virtual assistant, executive assistant, administrative assistant, whatever you want to call yourself, whatever level you are at before you start thinking about, am I going to count hours? Am I going to block people into times of day? How am I going to make my packaging? And please, again, be unique. Don't try to be the cheapest one out there. Don't try to be the most expensive one out there. Don't try to copy what you see everybody else doing, because that's not going to work for you. That only works for that person. And there's always going to be someone who can come in and be 5 cents cheaper than you or $5 cheaper than you.
Yes. So how did you build this business? Because when we look at your history, you worked with celebrities, and I'm sure everyone always wants to talk about this. I saw that you did the Rolling Stones. I read something about Mick Jagger and dehumidifiers. I saw Lady Gaga in there. Like, how did you go? Was that on a contract basis with celebrities and then you built your own business, or were you full time? How did that work?
So when I was touring with the big bands, you're, I guess, contracted to be out on the road for the length of the tour, but you're not working with anyone else. That is definitely a 24/7 job. And then you kind of come off the road and then you can wait until you get another band, another contract that you can go and join. So kind of contract, kind of freelance, but also full time. But I actually have a interesting story. So when I was really little, I had a shirt that said, "Remember me, I'm going to be a star." And I wore that shirt everywhere to the point where it disintegrated. And I always thought that, though, in my very young undeveloped brain, that being a star was being a rock star. So singing, dancing, performing, playing a musical instrument. And the problem was is that in my very young undeveloped brain, I was there, or not my undeveloped brain, but my very young age, I was horrible at any of that. I know you can see the guitar behind me, but it like always sounds like a dying animal when I play it. I don't have any musical talent. I definitely wasn't born with it. So I thought, oh, like, how am I going to be a rock star? I guess I'm just going to throw that dream out and, be like a useless human who can never achieve their goals. And so but for some reason, I held on to a little portion of that dream and I never really let it go. And it would always kind of pop up in my memory when I was making those like decisions where you're at a crossroad in life, you can go this way or this way. And really interestingly enough, it geared me and steered me in the direction of not necessarily being up on the stage because again, I have very little musical talent, but being able to help and support some of the world's most successful people. And something that I like to talk about when I'm helping entrepreneurs build businesses is in a very, very early stage of your career and your business, never ever say no. And that is actually how I built what I built, is because I was never afraid to say yes to anything. I would always say, okay, I'll do it, and then freak out in the background because I'm like, how am I going to do this? Why did I just agree to blah, 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 blah? But I was able to actually navigate and learn through those lessons and really, again, like steer my life into sort of being a rock star, but really supporting other rock stars. But it was really interesting because when I was out on the road, I had been doing it for a number of years. And there was this one moment in time where one of the crazy rock stars I was supporting, I can't name his name for this, but one of his crazy requests was that he wanted always, when he traveled, so when we came to a new hotel, he wanted his toothbrush to be sanitized in a hotel dishwasher. So every time it came out of the suitcase, I had to walk downstairs to like the hotel, back of house, back of the kitchen, and ask the staff if I could put this toothbrush in their dishwasher and like run it through the full cycle. And people always ask me, wow, you actually did it? And I said, actually, yeah, I did it every single time. I guess that speaks to my integrity. And people always ask why. And I don't know. I didn't ask. I just did it.
Just did it. Yeah.
Just did it. But yes, so there was this one moment we were actually in a brand new hotel. So we'd never stayed there before. So they didn't know that I was coming. A lot of times people were like, oh, yeah, here's this crazy lady with the toothbrush again. But we were in Shanghai, this like super luxurious brand new hotel. And I was trying to communicate in a language that they didn't speak. I didn't speak their language. They didn't speak English. That I had to put this toothbrush in the dishwasher. And they were looking at me like I had three heads. It was like the most awkward moment of my entire life. And I remember standing there just thinking, there's got to be more to life than this. And that was kind of my like aha moment. And after that tour ended, I was like, I'm going to open up my own business. This sounds like something I can do. And I did, with zero business background at all, just with the desire and the goal of, I just want to help more than one crazy rock star at a time.
Yeah. Yeah. How did you even get into the touring aspect as an EA? I mean, I remember way back when, the beginning of my career, maybe not beginning, but like 5 years in, looking into like how do you be a celebrity assistant? Because they have multiple assistants. It's not just you. They've got like a lot. And so like there was like a few things out there I saw, and obviously I'd have to move, and I wasn't interested in moving, so I kind of let that die. But how did you get into it?
Um, I always hate saying this, but it was right place, right time for me. So I was, surrounded by a bunch. I guess I put myself in that situation, but people who were in the music industry because I was always really fascinated with it. And there was somebody who was his wife actually went into very, very premature labor. I think she was only like 6 or 7 months pregnant, and so he was about to go out on the Kenny Rogers tour. And he was like, "Hey, Tara, can you hop on this tour bus right now and head like 8 hours down the road and help me out here?" And so I did. I was like, another moment where I was like, "Yeah, sure." Called my parents. "Can you please send me?" Because I was young, I was 18. Can you please send me my clothes? I don't know how long I'm going to be out here. Send as much as you can. And I kind of figured it out as I went along. And the industry is small, so you can kind of make a name for yourself pretty quickly as you go along your journey.
I do coach my students a lot of the times saying, just say yes and figure it out, unless it's like completely out of your ballpark. Like if you
Or
are,
illegal or
oh, right. Oh,
unethical,
well, yeah, of
please don't
course.
say yes. Yes.
Given that, yes. But like if it's like you're, someone who does data entry and they're asking you to make a logo, okay, maybe that's a little outside. But if it's something that like you could do, you've just never had the chance, just say yes and figure it out. Because I think a lot of us business owners have done that. And I know myself too, when I started freelancing, there were requests of the online world that I had never experienced because I was corporate, and I would just be like, I can do it. I can figure it out. I won't charge you for it for training. I will figure it out my own however long it takes me. And people loved that attitude. And I just got referrals based of that because, and I think that's just such an important mentality to have when you're running a business and when you're starting a business. How do you interview your EAs to make sure they fit your caliber and the reputation you're trying to uphold?
Yeah, so our executive assistants have over 10 years of experience. A lot of the companies that we help are startups. So fast moving,
Mhm.
non-corporate, kind of seed series A startups. So we ask for them to have some sort of experience in the startup world because it is very different than the corporate world. We also ask that they have experience in working remote because a lot of us will say, "Yes, I love remote." And then they get lonely 2 or 3 months into it.
Yep.
Or they think, working remote during the pandemic was really great and they want to continue it, but it's really not the same. Again, the loneliness strikes, the procrastination, not being as motivated. So we really ask. We're a remote first company, so we ask for people to be comfortable and to have experience outside of just being forced home during the pandemic, working remote. And we also do a lot of critical testing for critical thinking, proactive thinking, strategic business development. Because our EAs, we always say that we are building businesses. We're not just sitting back and waiting for tasks. So we really want our EAs to have that business mind and that strategic mind to really, again, like take all the mumble jumble that are in young founders' brains and be able to help them, strategize and move their goals forward.
Like it. I like it a lot. I like the 10 years experience too. That means you're definitely weeding out quite a few EAs who might not be up to the par you're looking for. So for yourself and as an EA with an EA background, how do you manage running this business and having a personal life? I know from experience, EAs are like you can have no personal life sometimes at all. And I think when I interview people, founders, a lot of times I sit there thinking like, of course you feel like strapped for time, you're a founder, but you're also doing that by choice, right? Like sometimes EAs, we don't have a choice. We're just like, I remember the span of 24 hours when I had a client being like, oh my gosh, I can't find an Uber for tomorrow morning. I thought I was going to be able to. Can you please book me a black car service? I was sleeping. So I didn't know. And then by the time I wake up, I had 2 hours to book it. Oh, I also need to get my hair shampooed and blow out when I land. And it was like all these things that kind of my whole day went up in smoke because of our disorganization, right? So, like, how do you manage that? Like having that personal life and running your business.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting. I do a lot of keynote presentations on this specific topic, and I feel like I'm an expert in having my day, planning out my day, and then having it go completely the opposite. Again, because I still work with celebrities. So a celebrity emergency is much different than a corporate founder or a startup founder's emergency. Just the other night, I got woken up at 1 a.m. Because one of my celebrity clients, her champagne wall was not cooling at the very specific temperature. It was 2 degrees off. And that was a massive emergency because her millions of dollars of champagne were apparently going to go to waste. So I had to calm her down and say we would get somebody in the morning. But again, things like that come up.
My
and I
mind is
didn't I didn't realize that I was only going to get 3 hours of sleep that night instead of the 8 that I had planned. So, yeah, so my days are always going off track. But I have to say that no matter who you are, or no matter kind of who you're working with, if you're, again, like freelancing, or if you are working for a specific company, always make sure that you have your own personal goals. So whether that is spending more time with my family, whether it is building my side hustle, whether it is, I don't know, saving up more money somehow to go on a vacation, or having a monthly spa day to myself, whatever that goal is for you, make sure that you are doing something, even if it is just for 1 minute a day, that is helping you move the needle towards achieving your own goal. And then you can feel that you are at least very much accomplished in your day to day and didn't just run around in circles after everybody else's priorities. I think that a lot of us will think of, like, we understand, my top 3 priorities that I have to do today. But a lot of us think of these top 3 priorities as just like day-to-day living tasks, or day-to-day tasks as an executive assistant or as a freelancer, kind of client tasks. And those are great, but those aren't necessarily priority tasks for our own goals and how we want to live our lives. And I am a huge believer in the fact that time management, to me, is about filling your days with meaningful moments so that you can create the life that you want to live. And how do you do that? You make sure that you are doing one thing a day that is, again, moving the needle towards your own personal goal, or it's one thing a day that's like actually achieving your goal or celebrating your goal instead of always looking in the future. It's one thing that I regret, actually, for a lot of my life. When I was working with these celebrities, I was put in situations that were absolutely unbelievable, like the biggest VIP parties, private jets, massive yachts, red carpets, the Grammys, the Oscars, everything you can imagine. But I was always thinking of the next thing. And I never actually took even 3 seconds to go, oh, yeah, that's cool. I'm doing this. So I always say, like, make sure, as busy as you are, maybe a work-life balance isn't 8 hours of work and 8 hours or whatever it is of not work. Maybe work-life balance for you is, making sure that you get everything accomplished in the day, and then spending that extra 5 minutes with your kids. Or I have cats, so like maybe petting my cat for an extra 5 minutes, whatever it is. Again, whatever makes you happy and brings you joy.
What do you think is the number one time management technique you learned from being a celebrity assistant, and then also from being a business owner and running your own business as an entrepreneur?
Focus. So in Hollywood, there is a kind of like math equation that is thrown around a lot. And it is 20% plus 20% plus 20% plus 80% doesn't equal 100%. And what does that mean? If you're focusing 20% of your time here and 20% of your time here and 80% of your time here and 20% of your time here, what are you actually achieving? So a lot of us as business owners, we get distracted with the next kind of shiny thing. Or again, we're like, oh, we're doing this. And oh no, I got this notification. So I have to go over here and do this. And then what was I doing? Oh yeah, I have to do this. Oh, I'm hungry. Maybe I should squeeze in some time for a quick snack. And then, you're running around in circles and you have no idea what time it is, what you've done throughout the day. Have you done anything? So really being able to stay focused on, what task am I doing right now? How much of it can I complete without, some massive emergency, and really understanding priorities too, and what an emergency is. Sure, your texts and phones can be going, but like, if it's an emergency or not. Again, in the executive assistant world, if your client is traveling. So maybe that phone call is an emergency and I should answer the phone. That a celebrity client is about to have a massive party with 100 guests coming, and maybe the phone's ringing. Maybe I should answer that because a guest can't find where they're going or whatever it is. But if it's kind of just day to day, those emergencies can wait a moment while I finish this email, while I finish this task, while I give myself the extra 20 minutes of this focus work that I really got to do. So really staying focused is my number one tip, trick, hack, whatever it is, for creating a manageable day to be able to achieve your tasks. I always think that people will, Google best time management techniques, which is great. As you said, you can Google anything. You can Google how to be a celebrity assistant. When I opened up my first business, I Googled how to run a successful business. And that was back in 2007 when Google wasn't as sophisticated as it is now. There was no chat GPT to help me out there. And it's all the same stuff. We all know it. It's like we all know how to live a healthy lifestyle, eat healthy, get a little bit of exercise, do something for your brain. Do we do it all the time? Not necessarily. So it's the same with time management. We all know that focusing helps us. We all know that just like getting down and doing the task helps us. We all know that blocking specific times in our day or putting reminders in our calendar helps us. So it's just actually about doing those things rather than trying to find like the next tip or hack or trick that can help us actually achieve them.
I was I was interviewing someone on the podcast. I want to say I was within the last month and a half, who's just said we've lost the art of focusing. We've lost the art of like sitting down and actually just blocking out time and working on something and not being distracted. We just always think like, and I've done it where I'm working and I'm focusing and all of a sudden I just look up and have to be like, oh, but there's another thing I need to check. Right. And you don't, though. Like you said, you generally know you don't have to, but your brain is addicted to that cheap thrill, that cheap high. And that's what checking like notifications and emails does. So it wants to do that. So we've kind of lost this ability to just sit down in silence and focus and work on something. So I love how you're like, this is the only hack you need. Just focus. And it's true though, because I know when I do it, it's like, oh, I feel so much better. I feel like I moved forward, right? I noticed
think about how many times too that, you procrastinate on a task because you're like, oh, this is going to be so hard, or I really don't like it. With me, I procrastinate all the time with bookkeeping. I don't like doing it. Even for clients, like expense reporting, I hate it. So I am going to procrastinate till the bitter end. But then you do it and you're like, oh, that took 5 minutes. Why did I procrastinate for a month and a half on this like one specific task, right? So you just know if you just do it, you're going to be able to get it done. It's not going to be as hard as you think, and you're going to feel so much more motivated. It's actually one of my big tricks for how people actually become a success versus the people who are like, success isn't for me. And it's the successful people create their own motivation, and they understand that they have to push past the hard things. They have to push past the boring things. There's no lightning strike moment that's going to happen. We have to create our own lightning strike moments by, checking off those little things. How many of us have, had so many things that we've had to do and we make a list, but we also write on the list the things that we've already accomplished just so we can check them off, you know? Like I do it all the time because it feels so great to check those things off the list and to be like, okay, I'm actually accomplishing things today. Like let's continue doing this.
Yeah. Or I'll like put something on the list that's like pretty easy to do so I can do it in like a minute. And I'm like, oh, look at me, I did it.
I always
Um,
think like when I'm getting ready to go to bed, there's like so many things I have to do. I have to do the dishes, I have to brush my teeth, I have to feed the cat. So sometimes when I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'll write it down. I'll be like, brush teeth. Oh yeah, I did that. Wash face. Oh yeah, great. Look at me. I'm getting ready for bed. So it's great.
I noticed that you have a team within your business that help you out, and obviously you hire EAs. How has your management or leadership changed over the years as you've grown your business?
It has changed and is still changing every single day. Again, when I started my first business, I was a dirty roadie. I had just come off the road. I had no idea what it was like to run a business. I didn't know what it was to be a leader, to have people working alongside me. I had no idea any of that. I just had like these cranky rock stars yelling in my ear kind of image of leadership. So it definitely took a lot of time, a lot of learning, a lot of mentorship for me personally to kind of get to a point where I feel comfortable leading a team. And even now, I always question on a day-to-day basis, am I supporting my team as much as I can so they can fulfill their own goals? As you can probably hear, goals is a big priority for me. I'm very passionate about being able to help other people achieve their goals. And as a leader of a company, I want to make sure that everybody is achieving their goals, not necessarily how far the company can go, but what are your own personal goals? What do you want to get out of this role? What's your end goal? It doesn't have to be with us and take it easy. It can be something else. And how can I set you up for success in achieving those goals?
Do people actually tell you when their goal is something outside of take it easy? I always wonder that because I hear that from other people on the podcast, and I'm like, but do people actually tell you that? Because I feel like I would be scared as an employee to be like, actually, I want to be freelancing and running my own schedule. I can't imagine that flying.
Well, we actually had someone who said to us not too long ago that her big dream and goal in life is to be a life coach, and that she's taking courses and whatever it is, the accreditation that she needs to be a life coach. And I think that is absolutely amazing, and I will support her 100%. Won't necessarily support someone who wants to open up a competing business.
Right,
But
right.
obviously, if it is something that is, not being an executive assistant, not working in the field, 100%, I am going to support you no matter what.
I love that. I love that. So, hiring is just one of those sticky things that it's really hard to get right. What advice do you have for women who are hiring, and have you made any mistakes or had any challenges, and you can lend some wisdom there?
I'm a business owner. I feel like I make a mistake every day, don't we all, right? Like, oh my goodness. So, especially on hiring. Over the last year in 2023, Take It Easy grew by about 15 times its revenue in 1 year, which was
Wow.
absolutely insane. It wasn't sustainable. And it wasn't sustainable because of how we were hiring, and also because of our foundation. So, as a business lesson, we learned that extreme fast growth is not sustainable if you don't have the right foundations in place. We also learned that, everyone should know this, but in the moment, we weren't thinking properly. So we would see new clients come in, we would see revenue, and we would think we have to hire to get this revenue, to get this client. We don't have anyone in the pipeline. Let's hire the first person that we talk to that can start tomorrow. Obviously, horrible business decisions. Please don't do it. We were again chasing the revenue and not necessarily how we can build a sustainable business, which is really funny because we help teach people how to build sustainable businesses. So yes, horrible. Please don't do that. And it was bad. So we would hire someone who could start tomorrow. They did not have the qualifications that we now make sure we have in place. Their only qualification was they knew a little bit about being an EA. And again, they could start the next day or even today, and we would run reference checks, of course, background checks. But other than that, and then of course, they weren't offering the services that we were promising and selling. So the clients would churn, and then the revenue would go down quickly. So then we would have to churn the EAs, or we would go, what are we even doing? You have to leave. So it was a whole mess of like clients leaving, EAs coming in and out and leaving. Horrible decisions. Obviously, we learned from our mistakes. We learned pretty quickly, I would say within about 5 months, which again is pretty fast in the whole kind of business world, that we had to kind of stop the hemorrhaging. We had to not sell anymore. We kind of had to, I like to say, kind of blow up our kind of management team and kind of start from almost a fresh ground zero. It wasn't zero, but it was enough that we could have a sustainable foundation to then actually grow a little slower. But we have the issues, we have the pillars in place that if we were to excel that quickly again, we could sustain it because of our pipeline, because of what we have put in place in the back end of us rebuilding.
What do you think propelled that growth at such a rapid rate? Was it the market? Was it your marketing efforts? Was it partnerships? Like what was it that made it grow so quickly?
It was a whole mixture of everything. So the tech bubble was at its highest point ever, which was really helping us. And then it burst, which also was really helping us because people let go of their administration team. But then we're like, oh crap, we still need help. So we're reaching out for fractional assistance. I do a lot of keynotes and public speaking and podcasts, and it was just I was talking to the right people for those audiences, so we were getting a lot of inbound for that. We were running like Facebook campaigns and marketing campaigns as well, just because we're like, hey, let's try this. And because we were getting a lot, we were doing conferences, we were doing a massive conference circuit as well. And because of all of the people we were talking to, we were getting a ton of referrals. But those stopped pretty quickly because we weren't living up to what people were referring. And our name was going down and down. So, great to build and to be a success and to see massive growth, but it's not great if you don't have that foundation in place.
Yeah. And you know what? I've kind of talked about this on my podcast a couple of times. So I did build an agency out of my freelance EA business and I burned it down to the ground. Well, not quite that dramatically, but I realized that I wasn't putting enough time and effort into hiring people. I was having to do a lot of management. My reputation was going downhill. People would clients would send a note saying, I'm disappointed. This was a referral. And I thought I was going to have a really good experience. And unfortunately, I just feel like that person's not there. Like a lot of times that it was like the person's great. They're just not quite there. They're just having trouble understanding that complex concepts. And I think it was like you're saying, that strategic element versus the task taker EA. And I think that's how I differentiated myself and how people expected the agency to differentiate itself. And I ended up slowly as clients were leaving, I would just let go of the EAs that were helping them. And then I just let it go down to the ground. Because the other aspect too was I didn't like being a manager and being the face of the bad reputation when it was coming along, right? I didn't like that. And I was like, okay, I need to go back to being just me and figure that out as I go. And then I did kind of a placement agency for a while where I would take a cut. I would refer someone, and if it works out, take a cut. And then I ended up being just a solopreneur again, but having people underneath me doing things. But I was still the face, and other people didn't exactly know what people were helping me on. But yeah, it's hard. The reputation aspect was one of the more difficult things because you just feel so horrible. It's just you're I hired this person. What did I do wrong? Like they seemed like they would be a good fit, and now this person's saying they're not. But I feel like every time that happened, I kind of had it in my, like I knew deep
You
down.
totally know.
Right.
Yep.
And then the one person, the one EA who was stellar, who I absolutely loved, asked for a raise every 3 months.
Oh yeah.
And I was
Yep.
so eventually when her client had to go because she was focusing on a different business or something, it wasn't us, but she moved on. I didn't hire her back because I was like, gosh, it's really annoying to listen to you ask for a raise every 3 months. So it was
Yep.
like pros and cons. It was like either the clients or something, and then I have this great EA and she's asking me for a raise every 3 months. I'm like, what?
I know. It's great when you can grow to a level where you can have like an HR team that deals with that for
Yeah.
you. That's
Yeah.
what I have now. And it is just great. I can concentrate on actually being a leader. I can concentrate on being the CEO. I can concentrate on the big vision of the business. And I can concentrate on what I do, what I love best. And that's sharing my stories and kind of helping other people grow and scale their own businesses, whatever it is, and
Yeah.
achieve their own goals.
I think I just didn't even want to let it get to that point. I think I was pretty much like, I hate being a manager. Like it's not that I hate it, but it
Been
was
there.
like this aspect of it was just not for me. Because now I have people under me, but I like it because I'm still the face. I guess the difference is like they're not with clients. They're like I'm still working with my clients directly, all that kind of stuff. So lastly, let's just kind of briefly talk about the money aspect of a business, right? Like you are running a business, you have to make an income. You should be making income. You should be making a profit. But there's also a point where you need to invest that money back into your business. So how do you handle that spending money, making money, right? And what are your best and worst investments you've made with your business money?
Well, I can tell you my worst investment, and it was probably one of my biggest lessons. But I actually made a lot of really bad decisions with my money when I was first starting out. Again, I had zero business background. I had no idea what I was doing. So I kind of chalk it up to like me putting myself through business school with all the money I paid out with that, like my failed ideas. But my probably worst and probably funniest one was this was a long time ago. I'm not sure if your audience knows what yellow pages are. But when I first started my business, I was like, well, I have to put an ad in the yellow pages. Isn't that what everybody does? And I took all of the money that I had saved up, about $5,000, and put this ad in the yellow pages, this like big, massive ad, because I'm like, I'm going to stand out. And at that time, I was running, well, still do. It was my personal concierge business. So it was helping high net worth, high profile individuals. And in my brain, I didn't realize that people, those type of people aren't going to read the yellow
No.
pages. But here I am putting this massive ad in there. And I remember very clearly, this is how naive I was, that the day that they were being delivered to everybody's home, I sat by my phone. It was still a landline. And I sat by it thinking, well, everyone's going to be calling me today because they're going to see that ad. Of
Cringe.
course, that didn't happen. Did not happen. I don't think anybody ever called me because of the yellow pages ad.
So you
And
would
I
put an
did.
ad out for the celebrity aspect, like the celebrity, or was it just general
Well, not
EA?
necessarily celebrity, but it was like I can run your multi-million dollar household. So I can run your staff, I can do your errands for you. This was before like Uber and things. So like I can pick up your dry cleaning, like all of
Yeah.
those things that are now very automated. I was like, I can do that all for you. Obviously, people again aren't looking in yellow pages for that. So that was a massive waste of money. And I was like, well, I guess I'm not cut out to be a business owner. And I almost turned it all in. I almost burnt it down right then and there. But I actually realized that I am really passionate about, again, helping more than one crazy rock star. And I really wanted to push it forward. I also am stubborn and I said I was going to do it. So I absolutely had to do it. And so I thought to myself, okay, again, what did these people that I've embedded myself in their lives do on a day-to-day basis to achieve and maintain their success? And what can I do today? What's one thing I can do today that mirrors what they are doing to help me build my my company. And so I realized that it was their network, and their network was you're only as powerful as your network. And so I was like, oh yeah, I actually know people. So I'm going to actually start talking to people. Like, why didn't I do that in the first place? And that's how I started to build my business. So putting throwing money at problems, I learned and actually continue to learn, never actually solves the problem. It just creates more problems. I also think in this day and age that people think that, posting on social media 8 times a day, everyone else becomes a success and all these massive followings. Why am I not? That's all I have to do. But it does take a lot more than that. It's not just post 8 times a day and you're going to be a massive success, or pay money into Facebook ads and you're going to be a massive success. You really have to be strategic about who your audience is, who you want to talk to, how many clients you actually want to get. Maybe, putting a successful ad on Facebook or online may bring you 100 clients. Are you ready for that? Sounds exciting, but it actually isn't, So maybe you need to do kind of a slower way of getting clients. So really understanding what your money will do for you, and understanding that you don't have to spend $5,000 for a return on investment. You can spend $100 and still be a success in what you do. It just has to be strategically aligned with what you are selling or wanting to do.
That's all great advice. So what advice do you have for other women who are trying to scale their business?
I want to go back to what I said at the very beginning, and that is be unique to yourself. I do talk to a lot of female founders who are trying to get VC dollars, and it is really sad that female founders only get under 2% of what VCs are offering, which is absolutely horrible. And so a lot of women won't even try. They try to copy, what their male counterparts are doing. They try to bring in, male co-founders, if you will, so they can have a male face. But please don't do that. If your business is, something that you're passionate about and something that you truly believe in, then being true to yourself and being unique in who you are will get you so much farther than trying to be, copy the next person or be that like male founder that you see. Really lean into also your network. I think a lot of women aren't comfortable helping other women. So really make sure that, again, you're only as strong as your network. So let's just help each other. I'm very passionate about, being able to help as many people as I possibly can, and leaning into that, whether you're female or male or whatever it is. And just, leaning into your network and really, really being true and unique to yourself.
I like that. I find that when I'm at least on social media and stuff, the more when I put something genuine or like that's something that really feels like me and I feel like I'm doing it to help others, I see way more of a positive response than if I'm like, oh, I should just post something that will help people as a coach or whatever. Like it's just that feels like force. I feel like people can know that as well,
Totally no. Yeah. And being unique to yourself too, and not kind of caving to bringing in a male so you can get the VC dollars or whatever it is, or talking to cringy people that you don't want to talk to. That's not going to work in the long run. That's going to backfire. So again, maybe it seems great now, but it's always kind of the like, trust your gut and trust what you're building. And just, women have a powerful gut. So make sure, and intuition. So make sure that you actually trust that and follow it.
Yeah, I had a bug, I guess, so I think brought in a male because that's what she thought she was supposed to do. And I can't for the life of me remember who it was. Oh. I want to say Molly Lopez, but don't quote me on that. If anyone wants to go back and listen, I feel like it was Molly Lopez, but I'm not sure. All right, so this is great. Thank you so much, Tarra. Tell us, where can we find you if a woman wants to connect with you, or if someone's looking for a really stellar EA? I will, of course, direct them to you. Please let us know best place to connect with you, website, anything like that.
Yeah, so you can find my team at takeiteasygroup.com. And I am on socials, Tarra with two R's, Tara's Time. And I also have a website, tarrastubbins.com.
Nice. So what is one philosophy, mantra, or quote you try to run your business by?
You said it at the very beginning. Anybody can be the Beyonce, Taylor Swift, Drake of their own lives. I truly believe that people, anybody can run a business and can run a successful business. It's all about setting the right goals, building the right habits, and extreme focus.
This actually reminds me, I really like Beyonce. My daughter is kind of figuring out, she's 8, she's figuring out a little bit about celebrities. She knows who Taylor Swift is because her friend really
Of
likes Taylor
course.
Swift. And she comes
Yes.
home the other day and she's like, Mom, I read a book about the singer you like, Patrice. And I was like, Patrice. And she's like, yes, Patrice. I read all about her. And I'm like, who is Patrice? And this took a week. And then she finally comes back from the library and she says, Mom, it was Beyonce, not
Oh,
Patrice. Her name's Beyonce. And I was like, oh my God. Okay, that's totally different. But
where did we get Patrice from? Who knows?
the S in there somehow, the Beyonce, Patrice. I don't know, but she had Patrice in her head instead of Beyonce. And now I hear Beyonce, and it's all I can think about because this happened in the last 2 weeks. It's like Patrice,
Patrice.
Beyonce. All
And
right.
Beyonce is all over everything right now. So you're hearing
She
it a
is too.
lot.
Yeah, her new country
Mhm.
album. Yeah, I love Beyonce. All right, so thank you so much for joining me on this interview, Tara. We really loved having you here. And for our audience, if you found this informative and valuable, and if you found Tara's interview awesome, share it. Share it with someone who would love it, and it helps us grow the show. So again, thank you, Tara, for being here. Next time, everyone, find me on LinkedIn. I'm the only Kiri Mohan. Tag me on Instagram at the virtually Kiri. Oh, just kidding. Nope, it's at the Kiri Mohan. Just kidding. At the Kiri. I will get my name right one day. I had virtually Kiri for years and years and years, and I just changed it about 6 months ago to at the Kiri Mohan. All right, everyone. Thank you, and we hope that you'll tune in next time for our next guest. Thank you, Tara.
Thanks for having me.